Hello everyone, it's Destiny, and today we are going to be checking out the newest tier list, and I'd love to know your personal thoughts on Sparxie, how you feel about her strength, her kit. And before we get into today's video, if you would like to see more Star Rail content from me, consider subscribing to the channel, leave a like to support today's video, and now let's get straight into it. So here we have the latest tier list, and if we take a look, now Sparxie is not grayed out compared to last time, as she is finally released, and she is also in tier 0.5 alongside Yao Guang as well. And just real quick, for those that are not aware of how this tier list works from Pridewin, tier 0 is the best tier that you can be, and then if we go all the way down, we have tier 5. Tier 5 is considered the forgotten ones, which essentially means that these characters aren't really holding up the way that they used to, or aren't really holding up much at all, which this tier 5 is a bit loaded, and some of these characters I don't think I would actually agree with being in tier 5, but we'll get into this shortly. Now, if we were to come back up here, we have Sparxie once again in tier 0.5 as well as Yao Guang. I personally predict that they will definitely go higher on the tier list once we get more Elation characters, as this will allow us to see the full potential of an Elation team. In the case of Sparxie, she does have mentions in her kit where she will actually get extra benefits if you have 3 or more Elation characters. We currently only have 2 Elation characters, so she's not actually able to take full advantage of her entire kit just yet, and when she has more Elation characters, this will result in her being able to get more thrill, more punchline from her ultimate, and so on. In the case of Sparxie's signature light cone, if we were to talk about that real quick as well, there are also additional benefits if you were to have 3 Elation characters on that team as well. Now, when it comes to Sparxie's placement, I would say that since endgame is currently catered for Elation characters, I would say that tier 0.5 can work as a placement for right now. I do think in the future, once we get more Elation characters and the team is more fleshed out, and we have, let's say, our Sparxie team, or Sparxie with 2 other Elation characters, and it is considered a premium team, if you will, then I do believe we will be jumping up to the tier 0 category here. And we'll just have to wait and see when it comes to the new Elation characters that come out, what the best teams are for those. But in the case of Sparxie, even on her debut, she's doing very nicely, especially with Yao Guang. Now, if you don't have Yao Guang, I have tested her without Yao Guang. It's definitely still doable right now, and you can still get a pretty decent clear if you were to use a character like Chibi, for instance, using a character like Cypher, RMC, and so on. So you are able to still get a pretty decent clear even without Yao Guang at the current moment, and this is definitely thanks to the fact that the endgames are definitely catering to Elation characters at the current moment. Now, I did notice if I were to play Sparxie without Yao Guang, there was one major issue that would happen a lot of the time, which is Sparxie potentially running out of the certified banger state. For just as a quick reminder, the certified banger state allows Elation characters to essentially unlock a new part of their kit. In the case of Sparxie, this allows her enhanced basic attack as well as her ultimate to deal fire Elation damage, a huge source of her damage output. In the case of Yao Guang, this allows you to take advantage of the Great Boon effect, resulting in you dealing extra damage onto enemies when your characters attack. Now, in the case of Sparxie, if you don't have the certified banger state, you will notice a very big difference in her damage output. And if you don't have Yao Guang on the team, the certified banger state uptime can be a little wonky at times for Sparxie in particular. Certified banger only lasts for 2 turns, but if you were to use her with a character like Sparkle, who's already going to advance her forward, and then on top of that, let's say you do go with Remembrance Trailblazer, you want to do the free-to-play Sparxie team, which would be Sparxie, Sparkle, Remembrance Trailblazer, and Dawn Hung PT, for example. I have showcased this, and something I definitely noticed is running out of certified banger numerous times throughout the showcase. If you have less Elation characters on the team, that does result in Aha Instant triggering less frequently, so there is a noticeable difference if you were to play Sparxie without Yao Guang and then play Sparxie with Yao Guang when it comes to Aha Instant frequency. And Aha Instant allows you to take advantage of your Elation skill. If you're not able to take advantage of your Elation skill frequently, this results in Sparxie losing the certified banger state, especially if she is taking a lot of turns. As while the certified banger state can stack, it only still lasts for 2 turns for Sparxie. Now, why Yao Guang helps out with this, Yao Guang's ultimate is able to trigger Aha Instant when you use it, resulting in a much better uptime for certified banger for a character like Sparxie. And also, since now you have 2 Elation characters and Yao Guang is also a very fast Elation character, this results in Aha Instant triggering more frequently. On top of that, Yao Guang also provides excellent benefits for Sparxie, being the additional Elation from Yao Guang's skill. Yao Guang is going to be able to provide ult-type res pen for the team. When she uses her Elation skill, Yao Guang will always go before Sparxie does, as her participation ID is lower than Sparxie's, and Yao Guang's Elation skill going first before Sparxie's is very useful, as Yao Guang actually debuffs enemies with her Elation skill. It is a vulnerability debuff, and Sparxie is going to immediately take advantage of this with her Elation skill being able to deal more damage now, as well as the rest of her attacks too. Yao Guang also has a way to recover skill points, which is after she uses her Elation skill, she'll restore 1 skill point to the team. And overall, Yao Guang and Sparxie are a pretty nice synergy just right off the bat. And once we get more Elation characters, this will result in the Elation team as a whole becoming stronger. Whether or not we have multiple Elation teams in the future, we'll have to wait and see regarding that, as some are speculating that we will have numerous Elation teams versus only 1 main Elation team. So we'll definitely have to wait and see regarding that if that ends up happening. And when it comes to just Sparxie's placements overall, for right now, her being tier 0.5, I can agree with this. Some definitely can argue that she should be in tier 0 already, considering the fact that the endgame currently is heavily catering to Elation characters. I can understand putting her in tier 0.5 for right now, and as a couple of phases of endgame pass by, we can see how Sparxie is fully performing. And there is also the potential in the future that Sparxie may actually become a sub DPS with another Elation DPS. So once we get more Elation characters, that could end up being a possibility. And the benefits of Sparxie can definitely be the crit damage she's going to be able to provide the team. She's going to be able to generate a bunch of punchline by consuming a bunch of skill points. And once you have 3 or more Elation characters on the team, then this results in Sparxie being able to get more thrill, which having more thrill lets you offset skill point consumption, which is very useful for being able to further enhance Sparxie's basic attack. I'd love to know what you all think though about Sparxie, Yao Guang. For the rest of the tier list, so something I've been thinking about recently, which I noticed that Pride 1 has actually incorporated it for other games, but I do think for Star Rail, while we can have this like general tier list, I do think it'd be very useful having a team tier list. And what I mean by this is I feel like having a tier list where you can see all 4 characters and where those 4 characters as a team would place when it comes to the meta as a whole can be very useful for people who are simply viewing the tier list and want to know why this character is in tier 0 in particular. Since if we were to say, let's say a castress team, a free-to-play castress team versus a premium castress team. So for free-to-play, we can think of using characters such as, remember, Trailblazer, Gallagher, and maybe another free support or a 4-star support. But then if you compare that to a premium castress team with Evernight, Cyrene, and Hyacinth, there's definitely going to be a very noticeable difference in performance, just damage output overall, and that's just due to it being a premium team versus a much more free-to-play friendly team, which there's nothing wrong with that. And I do think that having a team tier list can be useful for that purpose, where maybe the free-to-play team is ranked as well as the premium team. The premium caster's team could be tier 0, and then the free-to-play caster's team would get its own placement a bit lower. And I do think that when it comes to the Apex character category, a lot of these characters are very powerful options. Archer has gotten some nice characters this patch. In particular, Sparkle getting buffed as well as Sparkle becoming free allows you to make a pretty nice free-to-play Archer team consisting of Archer, Remembrance Trailblazer, and Don Hung. And speaking of Sparkle, actually, I do think there could definitely be argument for Sparkle actually moving up to tier 0 after her buffs. Sparkle's buffs helped quite a lot when it comes to what she's able to provide her team, when it comes to the buffs that she was already giving, the crit damage, the action advance, and so on. But now she also is able to inflict inflict that vulnerability onto enemies. The ult type res pen, some of her traces got changed a bit so they are more universal. So in the case of the trace Nocturne, this will increase all allies attack by 45%, and then also the character that has the crit damage boost effect provided by her skill, their ult type res pen will also increase by 10%. So this trace used to be different before, and I believe this trace used to be more catered if you had numerous quantum characters on the team, but now Sparkle is a bit more universal in that particular trace and also what she is able to provide as a character. We are going to be able to take advantage of Figment, which Figment is going to allow us to increase the damage taken by all enemies by 4%, effectively a vulnerability debuff, and this can be boosted even further with Sparkle's ultimate, as for all ally characters that have Cypher, each stack of the damage boost against enemies provided by the talent, which is those Figment stacks, will additionally increase by 6% per stack, and this will last for 3 turns. So this vulnerability debuff will be useful in the case of just being able to deal more damage with your team overall. We of course still have the crit damage boost, and then for those that do have some Eidolons, that is also an option as well with Sparkle. And if you already had Sparkle before, then I'm sure some are considering, should I get an additional Eidolon for Sparkle? And when it comes to the selector overall, I have talked about this before, but I would heavily recommend Kafka as well as Sparkle the most for the options, depending on what your account is looking like. If you do play damage over time, or if you're looking to have a damage over time team, maybe you're missing Kafka, or you ended up just pulling Black Swan and High Scyllins, whatever it may be. But I do think there can definitely be arguments for Sparkle actually moving up to tier 0 after her recent buffs. She works very well with Sparxie. She is currently one of the best partners you can use for Sparxie. You can also use her with numerous other characters as well, just for what she's able to provide for them. But 2 of the most notable synergies at the current moment, which are with 2 top tier damage dealers, would be Archer and then Sparxie. I'd love to know what you all think regarding that. I actually do not agree with Xueyi's placement. Being in tier 5 is very low in my opinion. I mean, it is the lowest tier possible, but in the case of Xueyi, I did try her out with the Dahlia, and I do think that she could actually be a bit higher than this, especially in Memory of Chaos. When the Dahlia did come out, I did try Xueyi with her, and I believe it was around a 2 cycle clear if I'm not mistaken, and I would say that's definitely decent performance, and I do think that can allow her to go up on the tier list. I do feel like a lot of these characters here unfortunately don't get looked at as much, even when they do get a new potential character they can be used with. In Xueyi's case though, I do think she could be a little bit higher. Even if it's in the off meta character category, she could still maybe be up there instead. As for the rest of the tier list, I'm more interested to see how this tier list will shift once we get more Elation characters, or if the tier list will be pretty similar to what it is right now, and then it'll just have the Elation characters being added wherever they end up getting placed. I do think though, once again, a team tier list would be very useful. Overall though, I'd love to know all of your thoughts about the tier list, if you would make any changes, if you'd move Sparkle up or even keep her just at tier 0.5, where you think the Elation characters will go as we get more of them, if you feel like they'll remain in tier 0.5 or even potentially go up to tier 0, and if there's anything in particular you see on the tier list that you would personally move around. I'd love to know all your thoughts. And that'll be all for today's video. I hope you all did enjoy, and if you did, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support today's video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.